Hello, I'm Tim Oliver. I'm a senior lecturer at Loughborough University's London campus, and I'm also the author of Understanding Brexit, a concise introduction published by Bristol University Press. And what I'm going to do in this first video of several videos about this book is talk you through what this book is about. Now, this book looks at the past, the present, and the future of Brexit. It's not just about the past. It's not just about explaining the history or the referendum. It's also about considering the future. So it's interested in the causes, the consequences, and the meaning of Brexit. How exactly do we study it? How do we examine it? And one of the things I do in this book at the beginning, in the introduction, is set out 15 questions on the causes, consequences, and meaning of Brexit. And then we unpack them through the book, through 6 chapters. We begin by looking at the history of UK-EU relations to explain where Brexit came from, why Britain joined late, why Britain was described or has been described as an awkward partner, and how that fed into the Brexit debate. We then move on in the book to examine the renegotiation and the referendum campaign. It's often forgotten now that before the referendum happened, David Cameron attempted a renegotiation of the UK's EU relationship, and then he put that renegotiation to the British people in an in-out referendum. And we look at that renegotiation. We then look at what happened in the referendum campaign, who the different groups were, what the main issues were, what the big events were during that campaign, what happened and so forth. And then moving on into another chapter, we look at actually what the result was when the British people voted leave. But we don't just look at why people voted leave, we also look at why people voted remain. Remember, the vote was 52-48, so it was quite a very close result. From examining how the British people voted, we move on to examine what exactly has happened next and what may happen in future. And to begin with, we look at the United Kingdom, about what Brexit has meant for the United Kingdom's politics. Because Brexit, let's not forget, is not a single event. It's not just about the UK. It's not just about UK-EU relations. It's a whole series of processes playing out, first of all, within the United Kingdom and also within the European Union. And when you look at it within the United Kingdom, you could look at it in terms of internal unity of the United Kingdom versus in terms of Scotland's position within the Union, over London's position about growing economic differences, about different outlooks and identity politics and so forth. And we unpack that within the United Kingdom chapter by looking at what Brexit has meant for British politics. We then move on in the next chapter to look at what Brexit has meant for Europe. And there you can break Brexit down into several things, such as UK-EU relations, such as the negotiations that have been going on about an exit, a transition, and a new relationship deal. But then you can also look at what's happened within the European Union itself in terms of how Brexit has maybe changed the balance of power, changed the direction of European integration, and what it means for Europe as a whole, not just the European Union. But it's not just about Britain and the European Union. Brexit is also global in its dimensions, and that's the issue that we look at in one of the final chapters, where we look at what Brexit means for Britain, Europe, and the world. People immediately think of connections to things like Donald Trump, but you can also look at what Brexit tells us about attitudes around the world towards globalization, towards identity politics, and much more. The book then concludes by looking back at the 15 key questions that we began the book with in terms of why did Britain vote leave, what strategies have the European Union and the United Kingdom taken towards Brexit and so forth. And we're looking really, as I said, not just about the past or the present of Brexit, but we're also looking at the future. So what theories, what frameworks can we use to try and understand where Brexit is going, where Britain is going with Brexit, and where the European Union and others are going with Brexit? That and a lot more is covered in the book. And in the next 3 videos, I'll talk you through what happens in some of those chapters about Britain and Europe.